Hello everyone, I am Rahul. So today we are going to start with the environment and sustainability conferences as well as conventions and some bodies which were formed over the period of years. So first of all, let me tell you that why I have started this is because in the next lectures or videos I will be taking the climate change and sustainability wala chapter of economic survey. So that's why before doing that Paris Agreement and INDCs and SDGs, we need to have a basic background of those topics. What do you mean by the basic background? Means all those conferences which have been held before that, which were very important from the point of view of exam. So today I will be dealing a little bit about the like Stockholm conference, then UNCD and Earth Summit, etc. So let's move ahead. First of all, this initiative towards the concern for environment was initiated through a book called Silent Spring. Silent Spring was published and authored by a lady named Rachel Carson. Rachel Carson, spelling I will let you know, wait a minute. RACHELCARSON. So in her book, Rachel Carson showed that there is a propaganda in USA that is ignoring the dangers that of spraying pesticides which pose to humans and wildlife. That is, pesticides which were used for killing pests on crops were harmful for humans and wildlife. So Rachel Carson was the first one to bring it in public view, in spite of protest by the chemical companies which were going to get lost due to this book release. So Rachel Carson mentioned about the DDT. This DDT pesticide normally we use for killing mosquitoes, but this DDT was leading to the breaking of eggshells of birds. So why she named her book as Silent Spring is because the birds' chirps or chirping of birds was not to be listened to after this persistent spraying of DDT. Fine. So this was in 1962. Then now moving to the first slide. Then UN Conference on the Human Environment, alternatively called Stockholm Conference, was held in Stockholm, Sweden. So this conference was held in 1972. It was one of a conference on human environment. So it raised the generation's awareness, which was not there till 1972, about the global environment, that environment is also important. Not only we have to do environment, but we have to make a balance between environment and development. Fine. So Maurice Strong was the guy. He was Under Secretary General of the United Nations, and UNGA, he was the main force behind this conference. And this was initially initiated by the Sweden, and then UNGA had passed that resolution that this organization should be held under the auspices of UN. Fine. So Maurice Strong was also a force behind the Earth Summit. He recently died in 2015. He was from Canada. Now this conference led to the establishment of United Nations Environment Program, which handles most of the environmental issues. And in this conference there was a declaration which contained 26 principles related to environment and development. Like some of the principles were human rights must be asserted against, apartheid and colonialism were condemned, then natural resources must be safeguarded, renewable resources must be used, wildlife must be safeguarded, non-renewable resources must be shared, should not be exhausted, pollution should not exceed the environment's capacity to renew itself, then we should not damage the oceans by polluting them. all these kind of principles over there in this declaration of Stockholm Conference. Now, one of the seminal issues which was raised in this conference was the recognition of poverty alleviation for protecting the environment. Because when a person is poor, he tends to make bad decisions which are not good for the environment. So, and you should know that there were two premiers from Sweden and India, that is two prime ministers from Sweden and India in this conference, and Indira Gandhi gave a seminal speech in this conference which brought forward the connection between ecological management and the poverty alleviation, where he said the poverty is the biggest evil for India and world. So let's move ahead. So something to know about the United Nations Environment Program. It was formed in 1972, obviously in the Stockholm Conference. Then its headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya. It sets the global environment agenda. Very important. These can be asked in the MCQs. It promotes the coherent implementation of environmental dimension of the sustainable development within the UN system. And it serves as the authoritative advocate of the global environment. That is, it peddles the initiatives of environment and the issues which environment may face due to development. Fine. So moving forward. Now, World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Environment Program established IPCC in 1988. Now, IPCC, what does it does is that it assesses the scientific, technical and socio-economic information which is relevant to understanding of the risk of human-induced climate change. That it compiles the information which is being researched by the various scientists of the various countries and provides it to in the public domain. It is kind of a conduit to link the government with the research. So because of its scientific and intergovernmental nature, IPCC embodies a unique opportunity to provide rigorous and balanced scientific information to decision makers. So it is a facilitator of policy. It is not a prescriptive kind of policy giver, but it is a facilitator which helps policy makers to take a balanced decision. Fine. That is, it doesn't conduct any research but compiles the information, right? So UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, is also the implementing agency of the Global Environmental Facility and the multilateral fund for the implementation of Montreal Protocol on ozone gases. I will tell you later. So this Global Environmental Facility also I will take up in the coming video, but you should just know that it came into effect in 1992. It is kind of provider of funds for the environment initiatives. Now UNEP is also a member of UN Development Group. UN Development Group is a evaluator of the effectiveness of various policies which are undertaken by the UN agencies. So it includes many UN agencies, and UN Environment Program is also part of that. That is member. And International Cyanide Management Code, a program of best practices of chemicals use at the gold mining operations, is also developed under United Nations Environment Programs initiative. Fine. So you should remember that it can be asked in the pre-exam. So let's move ahead. Now after the passing of this 1972 conference, many environmental conventions were passed in different conferences. First of all, in 1979 we had the Geneva Convention on long trans-range transboundary air pollution. What do you mean by this is that air pollution is not divided by borders. Air can move from one country to another country. If one country is polluting, the other country air will also get polluted. So it is not divided into well-defined compartments, that it is your compartment air, it is polluted, my compartment is not polluted. So all the countries have to come to a consensus that how to prevent air pollution. So, and also they prevent the long range transmission, that is transfer from the polluting country to the non-polluted country. Then in 1985 there was Helsinki Agreement, which committed to reduce the sulfur oxide emissions. It was a 21 nation agreement. In 1988, we had the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. And in 1989, we had the Basel Convention on transboundary movement of hazardous waste, like you can say chemical waste and all. It should not move from one country to another, and if it moves from one country to another, the country which is a source of this hazardous waste should give information to the country where the waste is to be transported. Fine. Now coming to the Brundtland Commission. Now Brundtland Commission was established in 1985 or 6. So it is also called the World Commission on Environment and Development. It was to evaluate the initiatives taken on the environment. So it gave a report called Our Common Future in 1987. And for the first time it used the term sustainable development, which is such a commonplace nowadays. So how does it define sustainable development? Is that humanity has the ability to make development sustainable. That is, for long period of time we need to have development, and to ensure it we should see that it meets the needs of present, but without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. What does this mean is, हम इस तरह से रिसोर्सेज को यूज करें कि हम तो यूज कर पाए और हमारा मोटिव सॉल्व हो पाए, पर हम इतने रिसोर्सेज को बचाएं भी ताकि हमारी आने वाली जनरेशन भी इन रिसोर्सेज को इजीली यूज कर सके और उनके पास एडिक्वेट मात्रा में ये रिसोर्सेज हो. फाइन. सो कमिंग टू दी UNCED, United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. It is alternatively called Earth Summit, which happened in 1992. It is one of the landmark summit in which different documents and conventions were signed. So various documents and conventions were signed in this conference. First of all, Agenda 21, Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, and Statement of Foreign Principles. These are the three documents which were adopted in this conference. Then UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UN Convention on Biological Diversity, and UN Convention to Combat Desertification. These three were the conventions which were adopted, or agreements which were signed in this conference. Fine. So 3 documents and 3 conventions were the outcome of this Earth Summit. Fine. Now what was the message given by the Earth Summit? Summit's message was that nothing less than a transformation of our attitudes and behavior would bring about the necessary changes. That is, there was lot of recklessness in the usage of resources by the people. So we need to change the attitude and tilt our attitude to reduce, reuse, recycle and reform. So these kind of initiatives if we take, we can sustain our development, right? Now what were the issues that were addressed in this conference? First of all, patterns of production, particularly the production of toxic components like lead in gasoline, which leads to cancers and all, and also poisonous waste. So it was scrutinized in a systemic manner by the UN and government alike. Then usage of alternative sources of energy, which should replace fossil fuels, which are the linked to the global climate change. As you know, they cause the emission of greenhouse gases, which is causing global warming. Now we should rely on public transportation system rather than the individual vehicles, so that we can decrease our vehicular emissions as well as the congestion in the cities. And there was a problem of smog also. Smog plus fog is equal to smog. Then there is much greater awareness of concern over the growing scarcity of water. See, in 1992 it was mentioned that there is growing scarcity of water, and till now we have not taken so much of initiatives that we can prevent the scarcity. As you can see, drought in Latur in India and many other districts of Maharashtra, Haryana and Gujarat. Now moving ahead, coming to the first document, that was called Agenda 21. Now here 21 refers to the 21st century. It has already been asked in the pre-exam. So it is the most comprehensive plan to date outlining necessary actions for sustainable development at local, national and international levels. That is, it is kind of a decentralized decentralized agenda. So UN Division of Sustainable Development acts as a secretariat which manages the agenda of this Agenda 21. Now it is a 300 page document and it is divided into 4 sections. First section deals with social and economic dimensions like poverty and health associated with the development, as well as how should we move by preventing poverty and health issues so that we develop sustainably. Then we talk about the conservation and management of resources for development. The third section talks about strengthening the role of major groups like children, women, NGO, which are hitherto exploited. Then section 4 deals with how to implement and funds and the professionals and all, what all are required for the implementation of Agenda 21 at local, national and international levels. Now coming to the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. Now it consisted of 27 principles which were signed in this Earth Summit. Now it was intended to guide countries in future sustainable development. So it states that long-term economic progress is only ensured if it is linked with protection of environment. That is a balance need to achieve. We need to achieve a balance between economic progress and environment. Fine. So what kind of principles were there in this Rio Declaration? Some principles were like people are entitled to a healthy and productive life which should be in harmony with nature. Development today must not threaten the need of present and future generation, that is sustainable development. Nations have the right to exploit their resources, but they should not cause environment damage beyond their borders. That is, you should prevent the trans-border movement of the environmental waste or pollution. Then environmental protection shall constitute an integral part of the development process. We should try to eradicate poverty by reducing disparity in living standards so that we can achieve sustainable development and we can meet the needs of majority of people. Polluter pays principles, that is, who pollutes, he only pays. So all the citizens must be made part of the initiative of protecting the environment. Like we have one Mahotsav where we involve all the people and children and students and all. Fine. So these kind of principles were part of this Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. Now the third document which was signed was the Statement on Forest Principles. So it was first document which was mentioning something about the forest. So it mentioned that we should contribute to the management, conservation and sustainable development of forests. Management means we should check that how many trees are there, what kind of biodiversity we have. Conservation means we should prevent the felling of trees or we should do compensatory afforestation. And sustainable development of forests, we should grow trees on the barren lands, wherever we can we should enhance the greenery and all. Then we should, but also we should use the resources and various functions that we get from the forest, like rubber, gum and minor forest produce we get from the forest. So all these kind of things, some kind of Ayurveda, Jadi Booty and all we get from the forest. So all these things were part of this forest principles. Then it was non-legally binding. You should remember it was non-legally binding. It was a first global consensus on forest. Also it applied to all the forests like austral, boreal, subtemperate, temperate, subtropical and tropical. So all kinds of forests were included in this forest principles. So thank you everyone. Please like, comment and subscribe to www.decipheris.com and please like our Facebook page.